So, hello, pop pickers, ready for the final 10 to 1 countdown. Today we're doing albums 10 through 6, and then we're going to do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 each on a separate day, running up to the 3rd of October. So, it's getting pretty exciting here. I don't know what it's like fever pitch where you are, I've no doubt. But not many takers for the steak knives, I have to say. Maybe I announced that a bit too late. Name any of what was it? Name my top 10 in any order. And when I set a steak knives, maybe people don't eat steak anymore. You're more going for chopsticks or Wagamama spoons or something like that. But anyway, so maybe we'll do the top 5. Let's see if we can get 4 out of 5 of the top 5. As just before we do the top 5 in a week's time. So the first one would be, in any case, a coupon buster, I think. For a lot of people say, yeah, that'll be in there, but they probably won't have number 10, so it probably would have got off to a bad start. You'd be quitting now and doubling your ACCAs, I know you will, but let's see. So, one of the bands that was going to be in the top 64 that didn't quite make it, and the album was their first album that was going to be in, but maybe 5 or 10 outside the cut. There's an album called Dire Straits, by a band obviously called Dire Straits, their first album, and I'm more and more committed that I am going to do a debut album countdown. If anybody wants to do some more of this with me, I'm going to go through albums, bands that had fantastic first albums, and I think Dire Straits were one of those bands. So 77, middle of punk, 77, 8 I think it was, they released an album called Dire Straits, which featured Sultans of Swing, and the only reason it didn't get on, they got a few of the great tracks on there, Southbound Again, that sort of thing, but the only reason it didn't get in, I don't think as an album it was absolutely strong enough. I say that, I've got all these albums, and I could have picked any of the, I think 6 albums they released. So after Dire Straits they did Communique, a great album again, very good production on there as well. If you want to get your hi-fi sort of sorted out, get any Dire Straits album, including the live ones as well, you won't be disappointed in the sound. So you got Communique, critics said it sounded a bit like Dire Straits Part 2. The same wasn't true of the third album, Making Movies, a red sleeve with a blue top to it. Again, a bit more poppy. They then released Love Over Gold, which was well received, by the critics. And then Brothers in Arms, which one of the first CDs to be released. Fantastic production values, some great songs on there as well. So I think most people thought, Brothers in Arms. A lot of people have got Brothers in Arms. It's probably on the Rolling Stone top 100 list, I'm sure, which has just been updated, by the way, so more on that next week. A couple of albums that are slightly weirdly placed. Rolling Stone magazine just re-released their top 500 albums, top 50 albums, whatever it is, so they'll be interesting to look at. And then I think after that they waited about 5 more years before they released On Every Street, which wasn't well received, and I think it felt like a contractual obligation album almost. But anyway, back to Dire Straits, and the end of Dire Straits was Mark Knopfler, who was basically the driving force behind it, as you probably know, deciding, I'm not in for fame, don't particularly go for fame. They'd obviously made enough money to quit, and so he sort of disbanded the band. That would be 91, and then Knopfler, if you followed his career, actually started going on a number of duets. He did stuff with Chet Atkins. He did a number of screenplay albums, most of which are fantastic to listen to in their own right. So Cal was one of the first ones, and Princess Bride and things like that. He released 9. What do you call them? Screenplay albums. So absolutely phenomenal output there. But also 9 solo albums under his own name, with his own hand-picked band. A couple of Dire Straits guys he's had back in, but mostly he's gone for this blend of singer-songwriter stuff, guitar heavy stuff. He's done some heavy, he's done some light, a lot of Celtic feel coming into into Knopfler's work, and I rate him as one of the top 5 guitarists, certainly living guitarists, but I think maybe top 10 of all time. He'd definitely be in there with this weird sort of, I don't know what do you call it, claw hammer style. He's got a thumb heavily in play and a lot of picking going on. Very rarely uses a pick, but uses fingers to play the guitar. Now, of those solo albums, I could have picked a number of them to get into the top 64. It would have been a bit boring for you as well as me, but it's the second to last, so penultimate one he's released, and he's still going at 70 releasing albums. Just released one called Down the Road Wherever. But it's the one before that I want to talk to you about, and this comes in at number 10. Mark Knopfler album is called Tracker. I remember where I was when I first heard this, and of course I'd listened to a lot of the other stuff as well. Ragpicker's Dream. I'm trying to remember some of the other stuff he's released as a solo album. Kill to Get Crimson. Some great albums. But this one I heard on Emirates flight to Dubai once. And where is this from? What year is this? 2015. Yeah. So I was flying that night, and it was on their choice, and so you got the sort of wireless headphones, you got the noise cancelling stuff, you've had a drink and settling down for the evening, and I decided I'd play Tracker. There is not a bad track on this album, and I'm a fan of Mark Knopfler, so I'm going to say that, but actually you can't say that about most albums. You can think, okay, I'll skip that one if I'm short of time. There's not a bad track on this album. So most of them won't make any sense, but Basil, about one of the guys he used to work with. Laughs and Jokes and Drinks and Smokes is the opener, and when I'm cooking I often put that track on. An absolutely fantastic track. But enough about this. I'm going to pick my favourite is called, where is it? Yeah, River Towns. Again, a bit of that sort of horse galloping along type beat that I love so much anyway. But River Towns is about being on your own, out in a foreign country, working, going from place to place. It sort of sums up my career since I've been working for myself. So actually the last concert I went to before the COVID thing struck, so was Mark Knopfler at the NEC or whatever it's called now. Yeah. So if you're a bit unsure about Dire Straits and you think, well, some of it was good, some of it was not, a bit poppy, then have a go with Mark Knopfler. He's turned more into a serious musician, writes and plays for himself, and not for sort of the audience or the big audience, popular audience anyway. So thoroughly recommended. In at number 10, Mark Knopfler. Now let's think, number 9, and again this band. Certainly in my top 10 bands of all time, probably most people's top 10 bands of all time. I can't remember how many they released, but this one's from 1969. I'm not going to tease you with this. The first album I thought was not the best, and I've just got it on vinyl. And it's rough and ready. It's raw blues, a bit like Free's first album I mentioned the other week. It's out there. It's loud and proud. But I think their second album, and of course I'm talking about one of the best bands in the world, Led Zeppelin 2, is where it really came together for me. I thought they got a mix of softer songs, things like Ramble On, Thank You. They got some real slow blues numbers in there. What's it called? What Is and What Should Never Be. And of course they got some hard-hitting, bombastic John Bonham at his finest. Real... precedes of heavy metal, I think, on this album. So the four of them together, absolutely fantastic combination. I remember when I got this album. This is from 1969. Yeah, so I'd get it in probably 1970. And I used to play on headphones. I used to play my records on headphones just to give my mum and dad a chance to, talk downstairs. But I did have some speakers as well, and I took my granddad upstairs one day and said, "You want to listen to this if you like music?" And he's about 75 years old at the time. And he listened to Whole Lotta Love, which is the track I chose to put on for him. By the way, Whole Lotta Love, my eldest son said, "Oh, you're going to have to play that because of your top 10, because it's the Top of the Pops countdown music." And I said, well, yeah, it is, but it's by CCS. So there's a band called CCS who'd copied Whole Lotta Love. I can't see Zeppelin ever given their permission to have that on Top of the Pops. So CCS's version is the one that you hear. They also did a version of Black Dog, CCS, so they like to do their copies. They did also Tap Turns on the Water. So anyway, we're up in my bedroom with my granddad, 75 years old, and I put on Whole Lotta Love by Led Zeppelin, full bore, almost cracking the speakers open. And I said, listen to this, tell me what you think. Listen to the whole thing right through. It's probably about 5 minutes long. And he turned to me and said, that sounds like... He actually said chaos. He meant chaos. I said, right. Do you like it or not? He said, it sounds like a proper orgy. I thought, yeah, you're probably right. I've never been to an orgy. Certainly never been to a proper orgy. And maybe he had. Maybe in his naval days, because he's in the Navy, he probably attended the odd proper orgy, and that's how it sounded. If it is, I'd like to go to one. But case rested. So, Led Zeppelin 2, I don't know much more to add about that. There's a fantastic riff-heavy stuff from Jimmy Page on there. Some Plant at his best, and the other two just pounding the rhythm out like a fantastic well-oiled machine. So that's Zeppelin 2 in at number 9. Number 8, 1982, and I may as well put this up straight away. This guy's done 4 albums, and if you like Steely Dan, which I do very, very much indeed, then you'll like the solo work of Donald Fagen. So Donald Fagen was the keyboard player primarily of Steely Dan. Steely Dan were really, by the end, just Walter Becker and Donald Fagen. And this is his first work without Becker. So much loved by, well, certainly Steely Dan aficionados, much loved by people who like music to sound pure. First purely digital record released in 1982, according to Wikipedia at least anyway. To me, a classic. A lot of people don't like it. My wife doesn't like it very much at all. When it comes on, she says, oh, it's this thing again. Very jazzy, very mellow, very well put together. Only about 8 songs on the album. It's not over long, but there's no sort of standout track really on here. You'd know as a single. My standout track, I'm going to go back to Led Zeppelin in a minute and tell you my standout track from there. I'd probably say The Goodbye Look. What did I put? Oh no, I'm not putting New Frontier. So New Frontier or The Goodbye Look from this album. Absolutely fantastic. So let's think what else I've written about this. Oh yeah, Katz was a guy. What do they call his? What's his first name? Gary Katz, of course. It's a guy who did production on this, and it shows as well. And production was probably knowing these guys strung out for a long time to get it absolutely right. They had a number of drummers on here, all give him full credit, and he would take a drum roll, a piece of tom-tom work, and put that on a track, and then another drummer would appear on the same track later on doing a different piece of work. He released 3 more albums after this, all good. Again, if you like Fagen, you want to check out the Kamirikad, also Morph the Cat, and also even Sunken Condos done in the 90s. But to me, absolutely fantastic. And I did think about trying to clone the cover of this. What were the turntable? But I've no Chesterfield cigarettes, so I can't really get that exactly right, and I've no microphone that looks any much like his. Mine's a weird little blue snowball thing. So it's as close as I could get. So standout track, New Frontier. 1982. Must double back and tell you my standout track on Zeppelin 2, and that's going to go to, well, probably again a bunch of 2 tracks together, and they often do get played together because one runs into the other, and I'm talking about Heartbreaker, and it morphs into segues straight into Living Loving Maid, She's a Woman. So that would be my favourite off here, but I mean so many great tracks on Zeppelin 2 that you can't go wrong. Okay, 1994. I'm just checking on the dates of these albums now. This guy would definitely get into the best debut album, because this is the only album he ever released. Certainly any studio album he ever released. he released a number of live albums. Well, I think his company did on his behalf, and after his death, because he died in I think '97, having released this in '94. A lot of stuff has subsequently come out, a bit like Nick Drake. Whether they're supposed to have come out, and the one he was working on at the time when he died, evidently died in a swimming accident, and he was a very good swimmer. So it was a bit of a mystery why he died. I think he got in the wake of a boat in going up the river. But yeah, seems a bit of a strange one. And the guy I'm talking about, you might have got it now if you follow this guy at all. Is a guy called Jeff Buckley, son of Tim Buckley, who was also a singer, but in the 70s. Jeff Buckley has an absolutely fantastic voice, and again, quote Rolling Stone, one of their top singers, top 100 singers. This album's in their top 500 albums, and I've written here, it would be in my top 3 probably, but it's quite hard to listen to. It's quite not disturbing, but it's quite sort of personal and deep. And I'm only covering this because actually my copy I think I got in Tesco about 20 years ago for 2-in-1 deal. So it was, I couldn't resist it. Fantastic. But I'm actually talking about the one that's on the left there. It's called Grace from '94, and again, some fantastic tracks on this, and so heartfelt, so stripped bare. A lot of it's acoustic, but he does play a mean guitar as well. And I mean, also on this album, I've got the track I also would like to have played at my funeral. That's how deep this is. That track's called Corpus Christi Carol, and Reduce You to Tears. Just have it put on, just him, his voice, and a little bit of acoustic guitar. Absolutely marvellous. So, yeah, what else have I got to say about this? This is a guy on this album, actually. Well, it would be. It's only album he reviews. It's a track called Hallelujah. It's not his song, as you know. If you follow those tawdry singing things and X Factor and stuff like that, you'll know that it was a song that was very well copied by a number of people. Got to #1 retrospectively, and Buckley copied it as well. But I would say, and in fact, to fight anybody, Pistols at Dawn, Billy Hughes at 20 Paces, who says it's not better than the original by Leonard Cohen, and not better by any of the trash that was put out subsequently. So I would strongly suggest Hallelujah by the best version on this album. But it's not my favourite track. I mean, if you think that's good, listen to the album. It's absolutely beautiful. A beautiful piece of work. My favourite track, my standout track, is Last Goodbye, and again, Reduce You to Tears if you've got any heart, soul, or lungs left in your body. So would be my top 3 if it wasn't so hard to listen to, but very rarely off my certainly out of my car. Okay, that's number 7, brings us to number 6, and there wouldn't be a countdown without a trip back to the 70s. So this is 1972. This is the first album I got by this guy, and I used to go, and you've heard from me about this guy already. This guy's called Rory Gallagher, or Gallagher, however you're going to say it. We've had a few of his in this countdown already, and he was my favourite live artist, still is. He would drink in a pub just behind the Sheffield City Hall, and we'd go and drink with him. No airs and graces. Wouldn't be buying everybody a beer, but he'd just happily chat to you if you were having a beer, and then he'd be on stage in the next half an hour, actually tearing the place apart. No side, no special features. I mean, if you read about him, he's just absolutely authentic. He's the only guy who played in Dublin and Belfast and kept that going, because he was born in, I think, Northern Ireland or Donegal, which is very close to Northern Ireland, and then lived and grew up in Cork. But it was always go back, even during all the troubles of the 80s and of the 70s and 80s, sorry, to Belfast, and put in a shift there. So there's a DVD you can watch by I think it's Tony Palmer who produces it, and just the story of a series of gigs they do in Ireland, and you can see he's just a humble man, but a humble man with absolute fantastic guitar player and authentic singer, songwriter. And I'm going to put this album up as my number 6 because that's the way I remember Rory Gallagher best. This album is obviously live. It's played, I think, in British and maybe Dutch venues, 2 or 3 different venues, and it's how I remember him, just close up, sweaty, putting everything he's got into the thing. You can see his guitar on there, classic Strat that he had, 62 Strat he had all his life, I think it was. And every track on this he's just put heart and soul into. My standout track is probably one of the first 2, Messing with a Kid. So it's a real stomper that starts the album, but also a track called Laundromat. Laundromat is the first track off the first side of his first album, which was just called Rory Gallagher. The second one was called Deuce, and then this was the third album that Gallagher did. To me, his best, and it's just because I had it first, and again, along with a few ELP albums, never off the turntable. So yeah, hold a special place in my heart, to the point where you can see behind me I've got one of my favourite beers, Pale Rider, in one of my all-time favourite places to drink, Kelham Island in Sheffield. I've got some Panini cheapskates of the 80s and 90s footballers, but also behind me picture of William Rory Gallagher. One of the best, and sorely missed. So we are down to the top 5, and if you want to have a punt at calling out the top 5, then I'm going to be starting those in 5 days' time, and we're going to start counting down to Sunday, I think it is. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Please join me. Please put in your bids for what would make it into the top 5, knowing what you know about my choices throughout. And if you get 5, steak knives are on the way. If you get 4 out of 5, then a hearty mention on YouTube will go out to you. Okay, hope you're enjoying it. All the best.